Hello, Canucks fans from the Philippines, back here in Manila after 2 weeks watching Jacob Bowl in South Korea. And I woke up this morning, it's Sunday morning here, with two pieces of good news. Number one, Sean and Kayla made it successfully here, safely here. So now the five of us are reunited for the next little while here in Manila, which is pretty cool. And number two, the Canucks have signed unrestricted free agent Daniel Sprong to a one-year contract worth $975,000. Now, much like the Archer Shilov's deal, I think a lot of people really like at least the money portion of this contract. And Sprong, surprisingly, a free agent still to this day. Maybe he got squeezed out a little bit on July 1st. Maybe he wasn't at the top of people's lists on July 1st. But regardless, much like we signed Pius Suter, I'll get to more of him in a second, in August of last year. This one's a little bit earlier. The third week of July, the start of the third week of July, but here we are signing Daniel Sprong to a one-year contract. Let's talk about Daniel Sprong, the player, first, and then we'll get into the ramifications on the Canucks roster. So Daniel Sprong is a 27-year-old right shot forward. He's 6 feet tall, 195 pounds, and he was drafted way back by, guess who? The Pittsburgh Penguins. Yes, we have, seems like half of our team have Pittsburgh connections. 2015 second-round pick by the Penguins. And he's already played for 5 teams, starting in Pittsburgh, of course. Then he's done Anaheim, Washington, Seattle, and most recently, Detroit. 2 seasons ago with Seattle, his best season, 66 games played, and he had 21 goals, 25 assists, 46 points. 46 points in those 66 games, playing 11 and a half minutes. And last season with Detroit, a slight dip in production, but played more games. Played in 76 of the 82 games, won 18 goals, 25 assists, 43 points in 12 minutes of ice time. So a half a minute more in ice time, a bit less production, but still a 40-point player. So in the last 2 seasons, he's had 39 goals. Last 2 seasons, he's had 89 points. And if you take that 43 points from last season in Detroit, that would put him 7th on last year's Canucks in terms of scoring. Of course, behind Miller, Hughes, Petey, Besser, Hronek, and Connor Garland, but ahead of Nils Höglander. So yeah, a good offensive player. I think it's too ambitious to predict him in the top 6. I don't see him playing with Petey and DeBrusque. I don't see him playing with Miller and Besser. He's your quintessential bottom 6 player, one that gives you some good offensive pop, obviously. He's very efficient. I kind of sort of compare him a bit to Pius Suter. Not exactly. Suter's a bit bigger, but kind of like, Sprong is a bit bigger than Suter, and not just because they're both from Europe, rather that I call Sprong a very efficient player. He's good around the net, got good offensive ability, he's got a good shot, but isn't the best defensively. I think Suter is a bit better defensively. That's why Suter would be a good 3rd or 4th line center, where I'm not convinced that, I don't think Sprong is going to play in center. He's going to play on the right wing. But the Canucks only really have Connor Garland and Brock Besser as their right-handed forwards. So it's great that Daniel Sprong fills in that hole as well as a right-handed forward, a right shot forward. So like I said, with Sprong, he's only played 11 and a half, 12 minutes a game. That's his average over the past couple seasons. His average for his career, actually. So I don't think we should expect a second-line player playing 16, 17, 18 minutes. He's definitely not a top-line player playing 19, 20 minutes. I think what he is he's going to be a perfect third-line player, someone who can provide some offensive pop. Now, it's the defensive side that's going to be a bit of a challenge. I've read a couple of stories, including one from Thomas Drance in the Athletic, saying defensively his profile isn't great. Now, I didn't look up all the advanced stats. I just looked up the easy stats, like his points every season. So I don't know a lot about this, but I got to trust someone like Thomas Drance when they say that he's got good offensive pop, but maybe not so great defensively. So obviously, Rick Tocchet demands a lot from his forwards. That's why Kuzmenko was shipped out. That's why Höglander is kind of in and out of the doghouse, so to speak. What will Daniel Sprong be in terms of, can he play a matchup role? Can he be responsible enough defensively? Now, over his career, he's had 159 points in 344 games, and that's 0.46 points per game. So just under 0.5, so that makes him basically a middle 6 player, and that's extrapolated over a full 82-game season as 38 points. You look at his stats, he hasn't played a full 82-game season, so I don't think it's so much about durability, it's more about opportunity as he's kind of made his way into the lineup. Now, I mentioned Pius Suter, kind of a comparable player a little bit. Again, Sprong is a bit bigger than Suter, but Suter, over his career, has 116 points in 283 games. That's a 0.41 points per game, where Sprong is 0.46 points per game. So you can kind of see why, at least I think they're similar players, at least from an output perspective. Now the big question, let's talk about the salary, let's talk about where he fits in the lineup. $975,000 is a pretty good deal, 1 year, so very low risk contract for the Canucks, and a chance for Daniel Sprong to build on his net worth, especially with a good season here. Now he's coming off a 2-year, $2 million per season contract with the Detroit Red Wings, so he's basically taking a 50% pay cut to play with Vancouver, but like I said, maybe he got squeezed out of the free agent market. So all his contracts prior to that Detroit one were $750,000 as the entry level, then $950,000, $900,000. So he's always making less than $1 million a year. Then the last 2 years he made $2 million per season, and now he's back to actually, I guess that was only a year in Seattle and a year in Detroit, where his past 2 seasons, and now he's back to making under $1 million a year. In terms of the Canucks, it does not put them over the salary cap, because yes, you add $975,000, but then you got to remove a player like Neil Zaman from the roster, for instance. So if you do that, if you remove Neil Zaman, who makes about $860,000 or $875,000, you add Daniel Sprong at $975,000, you add $100,000 in cap space or so, and you're still under the cap by $15,000. So this is really good work. I'm not sure if that's what the Canucks had in mind when they signed him to $975,000, that they're going to demote him on and then make that space. Because if you demote DiGiuseppe, who doesn't make it as much as Neil Zaman, you actually then, if you demote DiGiuseppe instead of Amon, then you're actually over the cap by a little bit. I know the Canucks, I've talked about this before, they want to stay under the salary cap so they don't have to dip into long-term injury reserve, i.e. Tucker Pullman. So as of now, if you put Daniel Sprong into this lineup and take Neil Zaman out, then you are still under the salary cap. Finally, who's he going to play with? Well, like I said, I don't see him as a top 6. I think anyone penciling him into the top 6 right now is being a little bit ambitious. But of course, anything can happen during training camp, during preseason. So if we still have something like a Miller, Besser, Heinen, Pettersson, DeBrusk, Hoglander, for instance, then it could be Suter with Garland and Joshua, and then you put Sprong on the 4th line with a guy like Sherwood and then Bluger. I got a lot of time for that line: Bluger, Sherwood, and Sprong, and that means Podkolzin and DiGiuseppe would be the odd men out. Again, anything could happen. Do you try? I've talked about this before. Do you try someone like Joshua up with Miller and Besser, and then you could try DeBrusk, Heinen, Petey, and then Sprong could be on your 3rd line then with a Hoglander and Suter, for instance, and then your 4th line then. No, that doesn't make sense. As I was thinking this out, if you split up Joshua and Garland, your right wingers are still Besser, Garland, and maybe Sprong then is your third line right winger, and then he will bump someone out. So maybe you end up with Heinen, and you could actually have Petey with Garland and Joshua, DeBrusk with Miller and Besser, and then Suter with Heinen and Sprong, and then a 4th line of Sherwood, Hoglander, and Bluger. So you can see there's a lot of ways you can go. You put Sprong up in the top 6, and then it just muddles things even more. But the biggest thing right now, we've got 2.5 months to figure out line combinations. The biggest thing, Daniel Sprong, 1-year contract, Vancouver Canucks, $975,000. I think another great deal by Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford. Canucks fans, let me know what you think in the comments below. I would love your thoughts on this contract as this roster continues to shape itself. I'm surprised by the signing, but I'm surprised in a good way. Shout out to my sponsors, Vanity Dexterous Real Estate, Coach Patrick Liu, weight loss coach. Thank you, legendary Lucas Gates, legendary Carol Bovenlander, legendary Andrew Chang, Hall of Fame and franchise members. Thanks for your support as well. And thanks to all of you for watching, liking, subscribing. Do that on the way out. Subscribe, like the video. You can leave a donation, become a member, upgrade your membership, but definitely leave a comment down below your thoughts on this Daniel Sprong signing. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm on my way to Mass now, do some shopping, do some lunch, spend some family time, reunited finally as an emo family. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. God bless, and go Canucks go.